The common belief about the Linde Gang is that their downfall came from time itself, a world that simply moved on from outlaws. But I think there was something even bigger behind their collapse: hope. The gangs believed that freedom was just one last score away, kept them moving for years. Certain members carried this powerful aura of certainty, the feeling that no matter how bad things got, they could still pull it through. But the same hope kept pushing them further, raising the stakes again and again. And by the time they realized that one more escape wasn't going to fix anything, it was already too late.
It's okay, son. Breathe.
They nearly lynched me. They got Micah and the sheriffs in Strawberry, and there's talk of hanging them.
Here's open.
Arthur.
What? The fool brought this on himself. You know my feelings about him,
You
Dutch.
think I can't see past his bluster to the heart inside? He is a fine man.
No, I ain't saving that fool.
I can't.
Like I mentioned before, there were certain figures in the gang that made you feel, if you were a part of it, like you were on the winning side. Most outlaw gangs were going through similar struggles at the time, but the Linde Gang specifically was consistently pulling bigger jobs, stacking more money, and slowly building a reputation. That's why, as the game progresses, you notice the law paying closer and closer attention to them. All of this had a purpose: freedom, the dream of living outside the system that was chasing them. Dutch's ideals felt like progress, and that constant sense of hope kept loyalty at its highest level among the members. You hear it clearly throughout the game. Hosea even tells Arthur at one point to trust Dutch, and honestly, for a long time, that trust feels justified.
Dutch? Miss O'Shea?
Well, feels like we are finally getting back on our feet.
You, find a buyer for them bonds we stole?
Not yet, but Hosea is working on it.
When we heading west?
Soon? I don't know.
Feels like things have changed. The whole world's changed. But they don't want folk like us no more. We're being hunted.
We are smarter than them. Only the feeblest of men take jobs in the government.
I hope so.
Trust Dutch, Mr. Morgan.
Another big source of hope was timing. Early in the story, it didn't really feel like the outlaw way of life was disappearing completely. Characters like Arthur and John often say this is the only life they know, because it's what they were raised in. That belief alone gave them reassurance that maybe there was still a way forward, and Dutch was the only one holding that wheel. But loyalty in this context can easily become blinding. It traps people in a cycle where they keep believing things will get better simply because they're staying loyal. And sometimes by the time you realize the damage being done, it's already too late. Hosea never saw loyalty as blind obedience. For him, it meant unity, moving forward together while actually thinking about the next step. The problem was that he wasn't the leader. Dutch would hear the advice, sure, but laying low was probably the last thing Dutch ever wanted to do for some reason.
Breaking, we could leave. I thought we was lying low.
Yeah, come on.
What do you want from me, Hosea?
I just don't want any more folks to die, Dutch.
We're living, Hosea. We're living. Look at me. We're living. Even you. But we need money. Everything we have's in Blackwater. You fancy heading back there?
No. Listen, Dutch, I ain't trying to undermine you. I just want to stick to the plan, which was to lie low, then head back out west. Now, suddenly we're about to rob a train.
What choice have we got?
Leviticus Cornwall's no joke, Dutch.
Who is Leviticus Cornwall?
He's a big railway magnate, sugar dealer, oil man.
Well, how good for him. Sounds like he has more than enough to share.
Dutch!
Gentlemen, it is time to make something of ourselves. Get your horses ready. We have a train.
And when you add someone like Micah into this equation, that one person who constantly reinforced Dutch's most reckless instincts, cracks started forming inside the gang. Cracks that, strangely enough, we as the players could notice almost immediately. Yet the gang itself took much longer to see. And honestly, that raises the very important question: if everyone could see these warning signs, why didn't anyone act sooner? There are many moments where hope slowly turns into blindness. The most obvious example is Dutch's constant dream about Tahiti. Every time he brought it up, it somehow felt further away. And honestly, even the first time he mentioned it, you could sense it wasn't a real plan. It was just another illusion of hope for the gang. And Hosea saw this clearly. He kept insisting that chasing one last core wasn't freedom. It was a faster road to destruction and ultimately surrendering to the very system they were trying to escape. Arthur is often present during these disagreements between Hosea and Dutch, but he mostly listens, and whenever he's asked to take a stance that might put him against Dutch, he tends to step back and agree instead. Not necessarily because he fully believes it, but because loyalty at this point still outweighs doubt.
Planning to rob a bank in his town, a bank that he no doubt protects, a town where his men are gunning for us. Before we do that, we need to put him out of commission.
I disagree. There's always an easier way.
There ain't no easier way. Now, I know his type. He is a vindictive little power broker who rules by fear. Now, we pull that stunt in his cesspit of a town, we're doomed. You want to leave this place? Leave this country? We need that money.
Just don't feel good, Dutch.
This is it. This is the last job that we are ever going to pull. Before the year is out, we are going to be harvesting mangoes in Tahiti. Farmers. But we need seed capital, and we need to leave. You know it. I know it.
Forgive me if I can't think too much about the mango harvest.
This is it. Trust me. Arthur.
If it's business, well, business is business.
Angelo Bronte stands between us and our future.
You'll damn us all.
Arthur, come on.
You better be right about this one.
I am.
And the rest of the gang, they're rarely part of these decisions at all. They don't debate the plan. They simply just hear it once it's already decided and follow. And that became the cycle the gang couldn't break. They often had the right instincts, but they kept choosing the wrong direction. And that always traced back to the one person, Dutch van der Linde. Dutch was an exceptional talker. The same persuasive charm he used to stall enemies or escape dangerous situations, that same ability to bend the conversations in his favor, he slowly started using it on his own gang, subtly but almost invisibly. Ignoring the law, making new enemies, and escalating more conflicts, these things stopped feeling like red flags. Dutch would reassure everyone that the pressure was just temporary, that one more escape will fix everything, and every successful getaway reinforced that belief. Hope kept getting renewed, and blindness just grew stronger. Even Arthur and John, who clearly sensed something was off, stayed in this cycle. They understood the risk and they questioned decisions privately. But thinking about it wasn't the same as acting on it. Loyalty still felt stronger than any lawman, detective agency, or army chasing them. Meanwhile, Micah was quietly operating in his own interest the entire time, making it even harder for the gang to climb out the hole they were digging for themselves. And sadly, it wasn't until the very end of the story that the wake-up calls finally started coming, when the damage was already done. Beaver Hollow is probably the clearest example of how hope ultimately drove the van der Linde gang's collapse. By that point, the whole group felt hollow. Almost like everyone is silently asking themselves, how did we end up here? And how do I get out? You start seeing members finally choosing to leave. And those decisions are encouraged by key figures like Arthur and John. But the damage Dutch caused by them was almost irreversible. The gang's reputation was stained everywhere they went. Some members eventually managed to rebuild their lives, sure, but Dutch and Micah had created enemies across entire states in the name of this so-called freedom. And what's striking is how much Micah managed to do without immediate consequences. All Dutch really needed to keep pushing forward was someone validating his chaos, and Micah gladly filled that role. Hosea's wisdom, which once balanced Dutch's, slowly became irrelevant. Dutch already had answers prepared, defenses ready, and in many ways, you can say that Hosea ended up being just another casualty of Dutch's mental decline. Several things made Micah's influence even stronger. Arthur's illness made people take him less seriously. John was repeatedly sidelined and even outright abandoned by Dutch more than once, surviving largely because Arthur kept stepping in for him. Yet when John later faced Dutch directly, he still struggled to fully stand his ground. Loyalty hadn't completely let go.
So,
Yes.
and when Spring and John brings the law down on all of us, what then, Arthur?
Well, I guess we'll have another fight on our hands.
Loyalty, Arthur, it ain't. I had a goddamn plan! John, you are my brother. You are my son. I was coming for you.
They was talking of hanging me, Dutch.
They was talking. They was talking. And now they may come and hang us all.
And of course, Hosea's death removed the last voice of reason that Dutch even somewhat listened to. Once that happened, the door was wide open for Micah. As long as dreams like Tahiti stayed alive in Dutch's minds, Micah knew reality wouldn't fully set in for the gang. Hope kept everyone moving forward, even while everything around them was collapsing. And that's really the core of it. It wasn't just the law or time, or even their enemies that destroyed the Linde Gang. It was hope. Twisted, exploited, and pushed hope that it was past the point where it could still save them. And this isn't just to say that hope always leads to endings like the Linde Gangs. Hope itself is a beautiful thing to hold on to, but only when your beliefs actually point towards something positive, something that benefits both you and the people around you. Back in the outlaw days, there were probably many people like Micah, but in the end, their fate tends to be the same. When you look at how both Dutch and Micah ended, it feels empty, not just externally, but internally for them. They left the world without building anything meaningful, realizing too late that everything they fought for ultimately meant nothing. On the other hand, characters like Arthur Morgan and John Marston, Hosea Matthews, and even Lenny Summers didn't leave this world without trying to shape something better. Their actions, especially towards the end, created the ripple effect, helping others survive, change, or find a new path. That kind of redemption carries weight far beyond their own lives. And when we talk about the law, the army, or the government forces chasing them, they weren't villains in the traditional sense. They were just responding to a changing world, one that was moving away from the chaos the outlaws represented. Even though Arthur and the others sort of found redemption later, they were still part of that violence for a long time, following Dutch's into a crusade they didn't fully question until it was almost too late. But change rarely comes too late when you're still alive. So maybe the real takeaway is this: hope isn't always what saves you. Sometimes it just delays the change you actually need. Leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and if you want to keep exploring these incredible stories together.
I want you to not look back. Like I said,